Hey there guys, it's Klay here. As I promised, a new video is out every single day starting on December 18th. Anyways. Today I will read chapters 4 to 6 of What If Naruto Was in the MHA verse, and as always, the info about the author of the story is in the descriptions. Anyways, I will now begin. Chapter 4. Start. Several years previously, my body is a little sore. Thankfully, the cool air is good for this. Naruto, age 11, rubbed his sore shoulders as he walked in the cold air. His jacket, a black and orange hoodie, wide open to let the air touch his sore muscles. His uncle had really put him through the ringer during training, but it was worth it if the results started to show soon. He could see his breath, it was so cold, and Naruto smiled to himself as he took a nice deep breath. Crap him late. Well, that was ruined. Naruto saw a young man wearing a hoodie from his uncle's Silver Age costume design line, running towards the bridge. Naruto glanced over and saw a boy standing on the railing near the edge of the water, getting ready to no doubt use some quirk and jump over it. It's been raining, must have some kind of jumping quirk or a flight one. Naruto spoke under his breath. The running boy, seemingly 15 years old, stopped in the middle of the bridge. Huh? Wasn't the way to the station supposed to be this way? Actually, the station is the way you came from, make a right and you'll be there. Naruto came up to the older teen and pointed out where he was going to go. The only station near was about 5 blocks away, but the boy was running in the wrong direction. Thanks to the All Might hoodie, Naruto could tell the guy was going to be using the station to go and apply for one of the many hero academies. He seemed like the type to try for it. Splash asterisk, oh my god. That kid is drowning. Damn it. Naruto unzipped his jacket and transformed as he ran towards the edge of the bridge. He could see the boy from earlier. The boy had surprisingly pink hair, easy to see in the water, trying to stay afloat. As his body became larger and more fur-covered, Naruto reached the edge of the bridge and jumped off into the water below. With enough distance to cross most of the way between them, Naruto landed right next to the boy, who seemed about his age. Naruto grabbed the boy and lifted him up on his shoulder, and prepared to swim against the current towards the land. It's a hero. I can stand. Naruto realized that despite the recent rain, with his current height of over 7 feet tall, he was able to stand up in the water. The water didn't even come up to his waist. The boy drowning must have just been unable to stand up because of the strong current. Don't worry, I'm here. Naruto said as he walked his way through the water towards the edge quicker than he would have swam it. Thanks for the directions, Fox-san. Not a problem, you go and become a hero. Naruto called out to the boy from earlier, who was running towards the station with a brighter smile on his face. Naruto stepped onto dry land, and jumped back up onto the bridge now that he had solid footing. The people on the bridge rushed towards them as Naruto placed the smaller boy on the ground, and took off his jacket, wringing the water out. That was amazing. What's your hero? Here you go. Since you don't have fur, it's got to be freezing for you. Try not to jump in the water again. Naruto tossed his jacket onto the body of the pink-haired boy. The boy glanced up at Naruto, and he saw the large foxman smile down at him. Naruto locked eyes with him, and saw pink eyes that matched the hair. See ya. Now. I have to pick up green onions, beef, milk. Naruto started to mutter to himself as he walked away from the scene. He didn't pay attention when people were snapping pictures of him with their phone. Since a story like this was unlikely to make it into the news, it wasn't a big deal. A soft feminine voice spoke when Naruto left. He's present day, the one that saved me from drowning. A middle school girl, about to start high school during her next school year, shouted as she stood up at the table and pointed at the news her parents were watching. Her jaw was dropped when she saw the news showing the fire-covered building, and the foxman that saved her life jumping out of it with elderly people and young children on his back. He had a blood-covered face, and burns on his body, but she recognized the orange foxman as the same one that saved her own life. Her bushy pink hair came down to her shoulders, and spread out from her head, and her face had slimmed down from the chubbiness she had a few years back. She had a slim body, nearly no breasts, and wider hips as she wore her school uniform. Her eyes were covered by glasses that mostly hid her eyes, but she couldn't help but drop her jaw. No matter how much she searched, she was never able to find the hero that saved her life. Kazuho, please don't shout. Sorry Dad. She apologized and sat back down, watching the phone recording that the news was airing of the incident. She smiled to herself and ate her breakfast. She recognized one of the buildings in the recording. She knew what she was doing this afternoon. With Naruto, now Naruto. I don't want to say this is a bad idea, but I don't believe Izuku will survive. Meh, he'll make it. Your plans were fine and all for preparing him, but all you are doing is taking him to his limits. You gave him way too much free time in the schedule, and days off. I just got rid of those silly things and replaced them with much more useful stuff. Naruto turned his nose up in pride at the redesigned schedule that would be used to train Izuku. The 10-month plan had turned into the 9-month plan. Izuku had been given 2 days off a week, 6 hours of sleep a day, and 3 hours of free time to be used for personal matters. Naruto's schedule replaced the 2 days off with a day of heavy workouts, and then a day spent recovering from the week with a visit to Recovery Girl and light workouts. Naruto had replaced the 3 hours of free time with stamina training, and the 6 hours of sleep had been cut down to 5 hours of sleep. With a short workout being expected before Izuku went to bed each night. Naruto also changed the diet to include vitamin chews and protein shakes in it. Toshinori looked at his nephew with worry. He's not made of money, you're having him. Well then, I guess since he is your successor, you're going to be footing the bill for this stuff he needs. I've already contacted Recovery Girl, and so long as you pay her for her visits, she doesn't mind healing him when he breaks. Don't worry, with my plan he's going to be ready and still have a month to learn how to use One for All. Naruto raised a fist up into the air with a grin on his face. He was excited to be helping, though he had a list of things he had to do so he wouldn't meet with Izuku personally until a few more months into his training. Toshinori was pale and sweating. Even on paper, this training looked like hell. This will break him. Toshinori was honestly, worried about not just Izuku, but his own nephew. Was this the kind of hellish training Naruto put himself through? Was his nephew a masochist? Yeah, it's supposed to break him. That's why I asked Recovery Girl for help. She already knows about One for All, so it's fine. He's not glass, if you break him, he might come back stronger than before. Naruto mentioned as he slapped a hand down on the paper and pushed it back to Toshinori. Besides, you asked me for help. And the first time he uses One for All, he might break every bone in his body. This way, you have a month to let him get used to the quirk, and you can be a real teacher. Naruto verbally beat down his uncle. Naruto's own nightmare training came to mind, since Toshinori knew that he had screwed up so many times trying to train his nephew growing up. Personal experience showed him that he wasn't built for teaching, and Naruto learned how to teach by learning from experience what it was like to have a horrible teacher. Naruto turned on the TV. Now, everyone, let's move on to our next segment. Here, we have a new rookie hero for an interview. The Hauler, I'm the Crawler, not the Hauler. Sorry, I'm the sliding hero, the Crawler. I just graduated from a hero academy, so my hero name isn't well known yet. Ah, it's that guy. Good for him. Naruto saw the teen from a few years back in a hero costume, looking good in his costume. Glad to see his dream worked out. What did they say his hero name was again? Naruto didn't catch the hero name. I think I heard them say the Hauler. Toshinori hadn't been the most attention to the name either. Honestly though, back on topic, all of this One for All stuff was so instinctive. I'm not sure how much help I'll be in teaching him. Toshinori looked towards Naruto with a wiggling eyebrow. Naruto sighed. His uncle was such a bad teacher. I'll call Super Gramps tomorrow, and see if he'll train Izuku like he did with you. At Leah's he was a good teacher. Naruto saw his uncle feel the weight under that comment. Naruto took the paper, and he grabbed his pen with a roll of his eyes, before he added a note to it. There. On Saturday he'll have 30 minutes of extra free time. Naruto relented and decided that this would get his uncle to stop pouting. It worked. The training is still a nightmare though. Toshinori stated, with Naruto shrugging. He grinned. Good, the trauma will help him grow. Anyway, if he's going to inherit One for All, don't baby him. You're putting a lot of weight on his shoulders, he has to be ready. I'm not saying be cruel and demanding, but you can't keep secrets from him. Naruto started to walk towards the door. He rubbed his shoulder when a small flash of pain got to him, the burn still hurting him. I'll pick up some pain relievers later. Only 8 months until UA. I need to train harder. I heard Endeavor is sending his son to UA too, and if that bastard is anything like him. I refuse to lose. Naruto kept his thoughts to himself as he went to go out and train. The joys of being home-schooled by All Might. He had all of the time in the world to do things that he believed needed to be done. Naruto. You're a magnet for trouble. I know you don't like babying, but you're not a hero yet. You should enjoy your teenage years more. Try and make some friends your own age. For me. Toshinori looked at Naruto when he opened the door to leave. Naruto looked back at him. Quote, Am I really allowed friends, when we're family? Naruto spoke dead seriously. Toshinori winced. Naruto's lack of friends was because he was afraid that somebody would learn who he was, and use Naruto against him. Now that Naruto was stronger and older, he could worry about this less, but he had forced Naruto to go through a friendless childhood. The only people Naruto could call friends were the pro-heroes that Toshinori would ask to babysit Naruto when he was younger. Naruto had connections with pros because of it, but that couldn't replace having friends your own age. I'm sorry. Don't be. Now that I'm going to a hero school, I can finally make some of the friends I've wanted. Yeah, that sounds nice. Naruto smiled to himself. He wondered what kind of friends he would make. Chapter 4. End. Chapter 5. Start. Everywhere Naruto went, people were talking about the new hero that was in the news. The large Foxman that was spreading, and people were just so happening to pull up pictures that they had taken of him years previously when he would do something good for others in his one-tailed form. This wasn't the first time that Naruto had saved somebody, or done something heroic, but usually they were such small matters that the news never made a big deal out of it. Guess saving a family from a burning building, saving the truck driver, and saving a child from getting hit by a truck, at the same time was considered newsworthy. I wouldn't have this problem if my quirk wasn't so flashy. Makes me wonder what life would be like if I had my dad's quirk. Naruto thought as he grinned to himself as he imagined himself teleporting all over the place. He shook his head though, since that style of fighting didn't fit his body well. He was built for brute force for the most part. The peanuts from Chiba were delicious. Considering the Foxman craze that was going around in his hometown, he decided to take a small break and travel to a different area of Japan. Sure, the few hours he was on the train sucked, but it was nice to not hear people raving about their new local vigilante. I'm not a vigilante. I was just doing the right thing, because nobody else was there to do it. Naruto muttered to himself bitterly. The labels the news were sticking to him were really annoying. Really, Foxman, they couldn't have come up with anything better than that. Did you hear about those strange instant villains that have been popping up lately? Instant villains? Naruto listened in as he walked behind two police officers that were doing patrols. They were on the lookout for any suspicious activity, no doubt, so they could be the first on the scene and call a pro-hero if the situation became too serious for them to control. Knowing his luck, Naruto would happen across an instant villain today, or something similar to it. Yeah, apparently, there is some quirk-enhancing drug that's in distribution. It causes your quirk to get stronger, destroys the victim's mental state. Those who use it also have their tongues turn black. Black tongues. Now that was an odd side effect. Then again, this was actually his first time hearing about instant villains and this new drug. He never needed to take a drug to increase his quirk's power, so that might be the reason for his ignorance. Not everyone had a flashy, heroic quirk. Quirk envy. As more impressive quirks appeared, those with weak or lacking quirks were come to resent those with impressive quirks. It was the source for many conflicts between people, and friendships were often ruined because of it. Trigger, isn't it? Not like we can be much use. If we see an instant villain, all we can do is call a pro-hero. Did you see that new hero on TV? Oh, you mean the Holler? Naruto asked with a grin on his face, butting into the conversation. He actually knew about this subject a little, since cops weren't likely to be talking about some vigilante in the streets. It was very common for the police to be talking about rookie heroes and unpopular heroes to make themselves feel better about their lack of authority. Pro-heroes and police did similar things, but on different scales, and nowadays the police force was usually just around to keep things calm until a hero appeared. Becoming an officer was something of a joke to those who wanted to be heroes. It's rude to interrupt conversations. Police 1 spoke as he looked down at Naruto. Police 2 nodded, though Naruto rolled his eyes. No, Foxman, my son was really excited to see a fox quirk in the news. He and my wife have the fox quirk, so they've got fox heads instead of normal ones. It really made him happy to see somebody like him become a hero. Police 2 added with a smile. He rubbed the back of his head with red cheeks, a little embarrassed to admit that his son's hero was somebody that he just saw once on the news. "I'm surprised, Foxman." Naruto sighed and walked off in a hurry, not wanting to hear their praises. He would think that the police would have enough sense not to praise his actions in public like that. He had broken the law, so cops praising him as a hero was very inappropriate. He enjoyed the praise, but not when it came from people who should not be praising him for his illegal actions. Meow. "Ah, you're super cute little kitty." Naruto smiled when he saw a cat rubbing up against his leg. The cat had two tails sticking where one should be. Naruto picked it up and cradled the tame cat in his arms. Quote, "You even have a quirk. It's so rare to see animals with quirks." Naruto scratched the little cat behind the ears. It purred in his arms, eating peanuts from his paper bag as Naruto pet him. Wow, he expected something meowing at him to be some large creature, one of those instant villains. That seemed like his luck. It didn't matter what he was doing, but something bad was going to happen in his general area. He just had really bad situational luck, and while his luck was good for the lives he saved, it wasn't exactly great for his reputation. Ah, a massive bee. Wow, that thing is pretty big, and its stinger is shaped like a shot. Naruto thought to himself, looking at the bee that was talked about. It was 3 middle school girls jumping away from the bee. The bee flew around them, with one of the girls throwing a thick, white, fluid out of her hand at it. Acid? The girl had super pink skin, with her hair being about the same shade of pink. She was a few inches shorter than he himself was. Her appearance was far from human, other than being human in shape. She had a rather sturdy, attractive-looking body, but her body was fully pink. The whites of her eyes were pitch black, and her irises were bright yellow. She even had 2 jagged yellow horns coming from her super messy pink hair. She had a very athletic body actually, and with her unique appearance, sex appeal, and acid quirk, Naruto could tell that she had future prospects as a hero. Her friends looked like your average middle school student, their normal appearances far less noticeable compared to Pinky. "It's just a bee, see, scared it away. Ah, it's flying away," Naruto stated as he looked towards the strange bee as it flew away towards the other side of the street. Naruto stopped looking at it, and he gave a startled sound when he saw his new kitty had eaten all of his peanuts. "Of you little stinker, those were mine. Meh." Naruto got over it as he tossed the empty bag into the trash. A loud roar. Naruto blinked when he heard a super loud roar come from across the street. He looked and saw a man wearing a nice business suit, screaming as his suit stretched and ripped. His body started to get larger and larger, sharp spikes growing out of his body as he grew from about 6 feet, to 7, to 14, to 27, and all the way to 40 feet tall. His skin turned sandy brown, hard in appearance, and his clothes had fully ripped off. Quote, "This is your fault, little kitty." Naruto lifted his cat up and looked at it in the eyes, just needing something to blame. "It's a villain." Police 1 ran away from the scene to go and find the nearest hero to take care of this mess. Police 2 ran towards the monster. "Everyone evacuate the area. My partner has called a hero." Police 2 started to direct the civilians away from the monster villain. Just in time for the villain to punch a building and shove his arm through it. The villain gave an angered roar as he swung his arm around. Naruto sighed and unzipped his jacket, placed his cat inside of it as he sat it to the side gently. "He's getting naked?" The pink girl watched as the boy her age started to strip his clothes off, though he just seemed to be taking off his jacket. She yelped when she finally noticed the giant villain that had appeared for real. She had been zoned out pretty heavily, and hadn't even noticed the monster roaring until she saw the flash of orange that was this teenager taking his clothes off. Then, she saw as he transformed. He became at least 20 feet tall as he stood on 2 legs, before he crouched down on all 4s with 3 tails behind him. He was only a fourth the size of the villain, and when she saw him rush into action, she didn't notice when her friends were evacuated from the area by the police officer. Foxman appeared again. Police 2 shouted in surprise, having not seen Naruto transform. "Hey asshole, you got some issues you need to work out, do it away from the city." Naruto shouted as he grabbed onto the arm of the villain, and slammed him into the ground. Naruto looked around, making sure that he didn't throw him into anyone, before he picked the villain up again and slammed him back into the middle of the street. Seriously, if he kept doing hero work like this, he was going to get a really bad reputation. People were going to only know him as a vigilante, instead of a person who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. His response was a roar. Then, he punched Naruto in the snout and knocked him off of his feet, smashing Naruto into the side of a building. Part of the building collapsing on top of his head, with Naruto grunting as his recent wound was reopened by it. Naruto saw rubble fall down towards the ground next to him, and saw it was going towards the pink girl from earlier. He was going to save her, but she saved herself surprisingly. She took off her shoes really quickly, and skated out of the way by releasing acid from her feet. "Don't worry Foxman, you can do it. My name isn't Foxman Pinky." Naruto got up and rushed towards the villain, grabbing his arms and pulled him away from the buildings, into the middle of the road. Naruto was punched in the face by a spiked fist for his efforts, and Naruto returned by punching the man in his armored stomach. Damn. Those spikes hurt. Naruto looked at his bleeding fist, having been torn up by the many spikes that were sticking out all over his body. Explaining this to his uncle was going to suck. Oh, and the pain of having his flesh torn apart was pretty damn nasty too. Naruto was thrown to the ground. The pink girl from earlier grabbed onto his fur on his face, and when he got back up, she was pulled along for the ride. She climbed up so that she was sitting on his snout, between his eyes. "Looks like he's covered in a lot of spikes and armor. Let me help you out." The girl was breaking out into a sweat. She was clearly extremely frightened by the situation she was in, but was still putting forth effort. Naruto jumped back when the villain tried punching him, with the girl being thrown off of him. He grabbed her out of the air, holding her by the entirety of her legs, before he put her on top of his head, letting her ride him. Fine, her acid would be useful. His face is the most heavily armored. Think you can throw acid at his jaw? Naruto asked her as he nimbly avoided getting punched by the rampaging villain. The villain was mindlessly trying to attack everything around him. The girl held onto Naruto for dear life. She didn't think this through very well when she grabbed onto the large foxman. "Gonna be sick. Not on my head you aren't. Can you cover his chin in acid or not?" Naruto roared at her as he ducked under a kick. She was not throwing up on his head. He glanced up at her, and saw her giving a thumbs up. Seeing that, Naruto stood up at his full height again and rushed at the villain. Naruto transformed. He gained a four-tail, and with it his body grew even larger than before. Now standing at 25 feet tall, he slammed his body into the villain. With more strength, ignoring the spikes stabbing him with as much willpower as he could manage, he gave the girl the chance she had. She started to throw ball after ball or acid at the villain. She had to throw close to 15 balls of acid at the villain to cover his chin. The villain didn't make it easy for them, as he struggled against Naruto the entire time his chin armor was melted off. Done. Good. Now, Texas Smash. Naruto screamed as he slammed his fist into the chin of the villain, knocking him close to 150 feet down the road. When he hit the ground and rolled, his body started to heavily shrink the second he was knocked out cold. Naruto started to shrink down as well, losing his four-tailed form and shrinking down to his one-tailed form with the pink girl holding onto his shoulders with her legs. The difference in their body sizes now drastically smaller. Naruto looked at his wounds, before he grunted in pain and got down on all fours, with the girl adjusting herself so that she was sitting up properly. They needed to escape before more police and heroes showed up. So, grabbing his jacket, his new kitty had ran away, he ran for it. Minus 15 minutes later, Yuwa. That was so scary. Naruto stood in an alley as the girl riding him collapsed to her knees and started to sob. The bravery she showed earlier gone now as she was out of danger. Naruto transformed back to his normal form. Naruto winced as he used his jacket to stop the bleeding in his chest and fist. Naruto stated. The girl continued to cry for a few, about 20, more seconds. She wiped her eyes and face, both were covered by tears, and looked at him. Huh? I'm Naruto. Since you saw me transform, you know my real looks now. You were really heroic back there helping me. This hurts. Naruto hissed in pain when he looked at his wounds. Oh, they were not pleasant. I'm Mina Ashido, and thanks. I'm going to be trying out for UA when they hold their tests. That was so scary, but it was kind of exciting. You're Foxman from the news. Mina introduced herself as well. She would stand up and help him, but her legs were still too shaky. She wasn't sure that she could stand up right now by her own power. Who knew that doing hero stuff was so terrifying? Foxman is a stupid name. I'm going to UA next year too. By the way, you're not hurt, are you? Naruto questioned her. She showed off some burns on her hands, before she shook her head. The burns were so tiny that they wouldn't be a problem for her. If I overuse my quirk, I can hurt myself. I had to make a lot of acid to melt those spikes. I'm okay though. Are you okay? Mina looked at his wounds as she spoke. She crawled, damn legs not working, and saw his jacket quickly soaking with blood. He nodded. I'm fine, this much won't kill me. Fuck. Naruto shouted when he ripped a small spike out of his shoulder. Great, he was bleeding out even faster than before. Naruto got his phone from his pocket and tossed it to Mina. The code is 8008, there is a contact named Sir Asshole. Mind giving him a call? I might need some medical treatment. Naruto looked at his wounds. Yep, he needed treatment. Sure, maybe after, we can go to this sweet shop. I planned on going today with my friends, but they kind of ran off. Wanna be friends? Mina offered the hand of friendship to him. He looked at her hand. He didn't shake it. My hands are dripping with blood, but sure. Just because he couldn't shake her hand, didn't mean he was turning her down. He just so happened to be covered in his own red juices. Not a pleasant handshake. Chapter 5. End. Chapter 6. Start. Well, I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong. Toshinori, in his true form, spoke as he looked at the back of his nephew. Izuku was showing far more results just 5 weeks into Naruto's redone training schedule, but the boy had already puked about 15 times already, and collapsed about 4 times. All stuff that had been planned out in the schedule, and the visits to Recovery Girl were helping his muscles heal back stronger much quicker than letting it happen naturally. The boy wasn't anywhere near close to ready to inherit One for All, but with the rate of progress he was showing, he would actually be ready for it within a month of the exams for UA at this point. It really made him appreciate the fact that his nephew was such a training freak, since this was speeding up the process for Izuku's growth, and it would allow him to rest easy knowing he had his nephew supporting him and pointing out areas where he could improve his teaching. Now, Toshinori was a big man to admit when he was wrong. Naruto didn't hear a word he said though. Naruto had headphones on and a glare on his face as he punched a punching bag in his room, a bag that wasn't filled with sand like a normal bag. No, Naruto's punching bag was made of pure iron, hanging from a thick and heavy chain. There was only about an inch of cushion between Naruto's fist and the iron inside, and Naruto had his fists wrapped up in bandages as he trained. Unlike with the burning building, Naruto had been unable to hide his injuries from fighting the instant villain, considering he had multiple stab wounds. Wounds that had fully healed thanks to a few visits to Recovery Girl, though she had requested that Naruto take it easier on his training for a few weeks to compensate for the regular stress he put himself through. Naruto didn't listen. I hurt my fist punching that villain. I need to make my fists stronger to reduce the damage I take from attacking hard bodies. Naruto thought to himself, not paying attention to anything but the iron he was punching. The bandages on his fists were blood-stained already, but he kept punching the iron bag with as much strength as he could muster with each punch. The fact that he had trouble with a rampaging villain had showed him areas his body was lacking in, and he just wouldn't allow that to stand. He had to increase the power of his punches more, and strengthen the skin, muscles, and bones in his fists so that he could punch as hard as he wanted without breaking them. Ow! Ow! Naruto gave winces as he stopped punching the bag for a second. Naruto added another layer of bandages to his fists, before he started to train again, sweat dripping from his body as he returned to his own training. Toshinori smiled. You really have more raw determination to improve yourself than anyone I know. Your father would have been very proud of you. I know I am, and it really makes me wish you would have accepted One for All. Toshinori could only imagine himself watching as Naruto used One for All with pride, seeing his young man take the world by storm and become a newer, greater symbol for peace. Yet, seeing Naruto smash through his limits with raw determination, guts, and an ironclad willpower would be fine too. Ding asterisk, raw. Naruto roared as he started to unleash a new shower of blows onto his punching bag. Toshinori stood up straight and left Naruto's room to go and answer the door. No doubt it was another hero coming to ask him to help them with something. Possibly it was going to be a UA teacher, since he would be joining that teaching staff soon enough. Either way, he was going to go and see who was ringing his doorbell, seeing as he wasn't expecting any visitors, and Naruto didn't tell him that he invited anyone. He enjoyed his small moment to contemplate the mystery person at the door, before he reached it and opened it up. There was a girl he never saw before. No, he saw her riding on top of Naruto's head in the news story covering the instant villain incident. The girl saw him and smiled, waving her hand happily at him with a wide grin that showed off her absolutely flawless smile. Her pink skin and black eyes making the white of her smile just pop out all the more. Hello? Hello, is Naruto home? Sorry for coming unannounced, I'm Mina Ashido, a friend of his. Mina bowed to Toshinori, not recognizing him as the hero All Might. He wasn't exactly eager to tell her, so he just humbly stepped aside and gestured for her to come in. There was really nothing in the house, outside of the stuff in his room, that would really inform her of his secret. It was nice Naruto had a friend, which surprised him. Come on in, I'm Naruto's uncle Toshinori Yagi. I'm sure he'll be happy to see you. Can I get you anything to drink? We have cool tea in the fridge, and fresh milk. Toshinori led the girl into the living room. A small farm he saved had given him several fresh jugs of the stuff, so they had more than enough fresh milk to go around. Actually, if he was being honest, he was starting to get sick of the stuff. She smiled. Milk would be awesome, but I don't want to impose. Any friend of Naruto's is welcome to impose here. Toshinori took a glass from the counter and poured her the milk. Coming back into the living room, the two rooms were connected, only separated by a counter. He placed the drink on the coffee table. She picked it up and smiled as she chugged down half of the glass with a very happy sigh. Toshinori pointed to his face, and got her attention on the milk mustache that she had given herself. So, what brings you here? Naruto didn't tell me you were coming. Toshinori asked when she was finished licking her mustache away. Her had to admit, as happy as he was Naruto had a friend, having somebody coming over to the house randomly could prove. A little worrying for his secret identity as All Might, and the secret behind his appearance. She looked away from his gaze for a few seconds. Well, even though we became friends over a month ago, me and Naruto really haven't hung out. So I wanted to see if wanted to have fun. Mina didn't mention that she got the address when she used Naruto's phone to call Sir Asshole. And when they were riding in the car to drop them both off at their homes, she memorized his address. She didn't want to come off as creepy, though she didn't purposely try and memorize his address or anything. Is he here? Mina asked as she looked around for any sign that Naruto was in the building. She was surprised he didn't answer the door. Toshinori pointed to the door with orange trim around the door. His room is right there, but he's working out. You're welcome to interrupt him, this could be a good chance for him to take a break. Toshinori smiled at her gently, and looked at Naruto's room dead seriously. Naruto needed to take a break, maybe a friend visiting would get him to stop. Thank you. Mina hopped up onto her feet in the most peppy way possible, before she walked with a skip in her step towards Naruto's room. She politely knocked on the door, before she didn't wait for any response before she opened the door and walked in. Wow. Didn't expect this. Mina looked at the type of room that Naruto had and was a little surprised. She expected something different. Naruto's room had some of the basics she would expect: a TV, a computer, a bookshelf, and a bed. His bed looked super comfy. The stuff all looked really nice, with his bookshelf being mostly filled with books on martial arts, training, quirks, and the rest of it being filled with different manga. Above his bed though, she saw two hero costumes hanging above it in glass cases. She saw a male costume, a bright yellow hero suit with black markings going around it, that formed lightning bolts that pointed towards the Japanese kanji for Thunder God, in the middle of the chest. It had a utility belt that was carrying several daggers with markings on them, and nailed to the wall above the glass case was a helmet with a black visor to keep an identity concealed. It was the costume of the X-No. 2 hero, Thunder God. Then she saw the next one, a woman's costume, though she didn't recognize any hero that wore that costume. It was a skin-tight black jacket with a red strip going down the front, and a red turtleneck latex suit that went underneath the jacket. Followed up with black pants made of what looked like a stretchy material for those with growth quirks. There was a white mask that looked like it would cover the top half of somebody's face, and black arm warmers. She honestly didn't know what hero that costume belonged to. Wow. That punching bag looks really heavy. Mina shook her head, getting her fill of his room. She noticed that he had a small bonsai tree sitting on his window, but decided to save that for later as she slapped him on the back. Eep. Mina yelped when Naruto jerked around and pulled his fist back to punch her in the face. She had heard him let out his own startled noise, before he stopped his fist and grabbed his heart. He took his headphones off. God, Mina, you scared the shit out of me. Mina, what the hell, why are you here? Naruto's eyes, shocked, opened as wide as they could go as he jumped back from the girl. He didn't know that she knew where he lived. In all of the phone calls and texts that they had shared, he had never mentioned where he lived to her before. Not that he wasn't pleased to see her at his house, but it was pretty creepy that she knew where he lived. Oh, you saw Sir Asshole drop me off that day. But still, what are you doing here? Naruto asked the girl as she calmed down. She had nearly gotten punched. She carefully jumped on his bed and kept her skirt from flipping up, didn't want to flash him her panties, and she leaned down and grinned at him comfortably. Your uncle let me in, not happy to see me? Mina asked, and Naruto rubbed the back of his head. He was happy. Well, I mean, I'm happy you're here. But why are you here? Naruto continued as she jumped up and started to dance with her arms and waist. Deciding to go with it, he did his own lazy dance moves. Here to dance? Naruto tried to guess. She shrugged. We can, I'm just here to hang with you. Want to go to the mall with me, or even play video games here? Honestly, I just want to hang with my buddy, doesn't matter what we do. As long as you take a shower first. Mina mentioned as she covered her nose with one hand, yet she never stopped dancing as she did. Naruto rolled his eyes and grabbed a change of clothes, and his jacket, from his bed. You stink. And are your fists bleeding? Mina asked him, as she looked at the punching bag. She saw blood on the bandages and the punching bag. Yeah, I'm fine. I get injured a lot when I train, so this much is nothing. Make yourself at home, I guess. Naruto didn't know what to say when a friend was in his room. This was the first time he ever had a friend at his house in the first place. He opened the window to let the post-training smell out of the room for her. He saw her pull her fist back and take a swing at his punching bag. Her fist hit it, and while the punching bag moved a little, Mina yelped and landed on his bed when she jumped back, holding her hurting fist. Ow. Ow. What the hell was in his punching bag? They weren't supposed to hurt so badly when you punch them. She felt like she had straight up punched a metal wall, and she was thankful she had not decided to punch the bag with all her strength. She might have broken her hand if she had done that, though it explained why Naruto's knuckles were bleeding so much. Naruto's uncle was right. Naruto needed to take a break from training, if this was how he trained. She was so going to take him to the mall to find him a hobby. Chapter 6. End. So that is it for this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it, and, if you did, leaving a like would be very much appreciated. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. See you all later and bye.